of elation? No, but that sounds nice. Do you have long depressive periods? Yes, but not in the way I think you mean. I think that response is at least a little funny, but he jots down a note straight-faced. Within 10 minutes, I'm being asked to recount past physical and sexual abuse. I feel these should be day 3 questions. However, it's often easier to tell these things to strangers, so I do. I tell him about more than one sexual encounter with older men when I was underage, but they were consensual. No matter how weird I feel about them now, they were, at the time, consensual. You seem to be making a point to tell me they were consensual, Dr. Samuel says. I shrug. Everything I explain to him feels vague. Like it could be something, but it could also be nothing. Is any of it abuse? Is it kids simply exploring sexual boundaries they don't understand? Is it adult men simply exploring sexual boundaries they're conditioned to disregard? I feel stupid recounting these experiences in all their unconcreteness. I do not know what they mean. Maybe they don't mean anything. The doctor makes me follow his finger with my eyes, not my head, to make sure I don't have a brain tumor. I do not. As he is about to leave the room, he pauses and turns around. Have you ever written a suicide note? No. I mean, yes. I'm not sure. I think so. When you wrote it, was your intent to harm yourself after? It was. But you didn't. Not in the suicidal sense. Can you elaborate? I wanted to die, but I cut myself instead. And that cutting wasn't meant to kill me. What was it meant to do? Relieve my pain. Did it work? Temporarily, yes, it did. But now I'm here, so I guess no? He finally laughs. Have you been restricting your eating for a long time? Not really, I say, summer 2020. Why did you start restricting your eating then? I was experiencing very bad anxiety exacerbated by the pandemic. So at first I wasn't eating because I was so anxious. I didn't have an appetite. Then it turned into a competitive game with my scale. A how low can you go situation because I wanted to feel more in control of something. Dr. Samuels nods. I understand. Thank you. Then he is gone. While I wait for the nurse to return, I think about that note, its absurdity, its self-involvement. It was largely about how no one around me seemed to be paying attention to my mental and physical decline. There was one particularly mortifying part about wearing a very sexy dress to a party and receiving no compliments about how hot I looked. The note was filled with venom and rage. I was so blinded by anger, I was ready to end it all over something as trivial as a leopard print Norma Kamali dress. Underneath the vanity was a deep depression, a seemingly bottomless chasm of worthlessness and anxiety. I was a woman losing her grip on a life I was holding so tight to. Consumed by embarrassment at the note's contents, I ripped the note into tiny pieces the following day and scattered it into various garbage cans inside my New York City apartment. The nurse measures my height and weight, 5'2", 81 pounds in clothes. Her face shows no sign of reaction as she writes these numbers down. There are no mirrors in this room, but I know what I look like. Emaciated arms, a massive thigh gap when I stand with my legs together, ribs and hips protruding, breasts nearly dissolved into my bony chest. She takes my blood pressure, which is eternally low, and I hear, as I always do at doctor's appointments, "Wow, you're going to live forever." If up until this point, I had any illusions that I haven't checked into a full-blown psychiatric hospital, the nurse makes me undress to confirm I have no drugs hidden in my clothes or on my person. I do not. As the nurse rifles through my clothing, she apologizes and tells me it's not personal. I pee into a cup, a triple check that I'm not on drugs. I'm still very much not on drugs. The nurse does a visual body scan to assess the severity of my self-harm. It is quite severe. I pull medical tape, which holds bandages in place over the cuts covering my arms and thighs from my skin. What type of self-harm do you engage in? I cut, I say, wondering why doctors and nurses never seem to debrief one another. What do you use to cut yourself? Scissors. She looks up at me from over her wire-framed glasses, her stoic expression breaking for a moment. You did all this with scissors? I did. At what age did you begin to self-harm? 14. She looks over my arms and